first time they met, it was because of the dogs. Late afternoon sunlight poured across the small neighborhood park, turning the dry California grass into a warm gold. A handful of regulars lingered. People who came not just for their dogs, but for the quiet rhythm of familiar faces and wagging tails. He noticed her before he noticed the dog. She stood near the fence, one hand tucked into the pocket of a worn denim jacket, the other loosely holding a leash that wasn't doing much work. Her posture had that unmistakable balance of alertness and ease. Someone used to long stretches of solitude, but not uncomfortable in company. Her hair was pulled back in a low ponytail, a few strands escaping and catching the light. At the end of the leash, a compact, muscular French bulldog with bat-like ears trotted confidently into the mix of dogs, immediately inserting himself in like he owned the place. "New here?" he asked, stepping closer. She turned, a little surprised, but not guarded. "That obvious?" He smiled, gesturing toward the dog. "Your friend just tried to reorganize the entire social hierarchy over there." She glanced over as her dog confidently wedged itself between a golden retriever and a confused poodle. "Yeah, that sounds about right. That's Louie." "Louie," he repeated, nodding. "Fits." At his feet, two long, low shapes circled with enthusiastic curiosity. One was reddish-brown, the other black and tan, both with bright, eager eyes and wagging tails that seemed to operate independently of the rest of their bodies. "And these troublemakers," he said, "are Pickles and Rye." She raised an eyebrow. "You named your dogs after food?" "I own a bakery," he said, as if that explained everything. It did, apparently. Her expression softened into a small, genuine smile. "Okay, that actually makes sense." They watched the dogs for a moment, the chaos of introductions settling into playful chasing and sniffing. "I'm Claire," she finally said. "Ethan." There was a brief pause, not awkward, just a natural lull, as both of them seemed to decide whether this was going to be a passing conversation or something more. Louis came barreling back, snorted once, and then leaned against Claire's leg like he'd just completed an important task. One of Ethan's Dachshunds, Pickles, followed closely behind, clearly fascinated. "Well," Ethan said, "Pickles has made a friend. That's rare. He's usually suspicious of everything." Claire crouched, scratching behind Louis's ears. "Louis doesn't do suspicious. He assumes everyone already loves him." Ethan laughed. "That must make life easier." "For him, absolutely. For me, depends on the day." There was something in the way she said it, not heavy, but not entirely light either, that made him curious. "So," he said, "what brings you to this park?" "Passing through," she replied. "Passing through?" he echoed. "Like visiting?" "Like," she said, standing up again. "I'll be gone in a couple of days." He blinked. "That's fast." "Occupational hazard." "And what do you do that makes you pass through places?" he asked, genuinely interested. She hesitated for a second and then said, "I'm a long-distance truck driver." Ethan's eyebrows shot up. "Seriously?" She laughed, a short, amused sound. "That's usually the reaction." "I mean," he gestured vaguely, trying to find the right words, "that's just not what I expected." "What did you expect?" she asked, tilting her head. He considered that. "Honestly, I didn't have a guess. I just know it wasn't that." "Well," she said, "surprise!" He looked at her a little more carefully now, as if trying to reconcile the image of her standing here in the soft light of a dog park with the idea of her driving a massive rig across state lines. "How long have you been doing that?" he asked. "About 6 years. Do you like it?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched Louis chase after Rye in a burst of clumsy enthusiasm. "Most days," she said finally, "I like the road. I like not being stuck in one place. You get used to the rhythm of it. Sunrises in one state, sunsets in another. It's freeing." "And the not-so-most days?" he asked gently. She shrugged. "Lonely, exhausting. You miss things. People." Ethan nodded. "I can see that." "What about you?" she asked. "You said you own a bakery?" "Yeah, just down the street, actually. Rye and Crust." She smiled at the name. "Of course it is. I started it about 8 years ago. Small place, but it's mine. Early mornings, long hours, flour everywhere, but I wouldn't trade it." "Sounds like you found your thing," she said. "Yeah," he admitted, "I did." They talked longer than either of them expected. about routes and recipes, about the strange people you meet at truck stops, and the even stranger requests customers make at bakeries, about the way dogs have personalities that sometimes feel more vivid than people's. The sun dipped lower, the park gradually emptying. "I should probably get going," Claire said at last. "Early start tomorrow." "Another drive?" Ethan asked. "Yeah, leaving the day after, though." He hesitated. Then he said, "I'd like to see you again before you go." She studied him for a moment, not skeptical, just thoughtful. Then she said, "Come with me." He blinked. "What?" "On the next run," she clarified. "It's not too long. Couple days out, couple days back. You ask a lot of questions. This way you can see for yourself." Ethan let out a surprised laugh. "You're serious?" "Why not?" she said. "You got somebody who can wash the bakery for you?" "Yeah, I do," he admitted, "but this is kind of sudden." "Life usually is," she said with a small smile. He looked at her, really looked this time, at the calm confidence in her expression, at the openness of the offer, given without pressure, at the possibility of something completely outside his carefully structured routine. Then he glanced down at Pickles and Rye, who were now sitting side by side watching him expectantly. A slow grin spread over his face. "Only if they can come too," he said. Claire followed his gaze, then laughed, warm and surprised. "You want to bring both of them?" "They go where I go," he said simply, non-negotiable. She pretended to consider it, tapping her chin. 3 dogs in one cab, that's a bold move. "Admit it," he said. "You're curious." She smiled. "I am." "Then it's settled. When do we leave?" he asked. 2 days later, Ethan stood in a truck stop parking lot with Pickles tucked under one arm and Rye on a leash, both dogs vibrating with excitement. "You weren't kidding," Claire said from the driver's side, grinning as she opened the passenger door. "You actually brought him." "They would have never forgiven me if I didn't," he replied. Louis was already inside, perched like a king on the passenger seat, until Claire gently nudged him aside. "All right," she said, opening the cab wider. "Let's see how this circus works." Getting everyone settled took longer than expected. Pickles insisted on exploring every corner. Rye tried to claim the co-pilot spot. Louis made it very clear that that was his truck and these newcomers were under observation. Ethan laughed as he finally got them arranged. 2 Dachshunds curled together on a blanket he'd brought, Louis stationed between them and Claire like a self-appointed supervisor. "This is going to be interesting," Claire said. "Best kind of interesting," Ethan replied. The first few hours were a mix of chaos and charm. Every sudden break caused a shuffle of paws. Every stop brought a chorus of excited barks. But slowly, the dogs adjusted, settling into the rhythm of the road just as their humans did. Claire drove with the same effortless confidence, though now she occasionally reached down to scratch Louis or glance back at the 2 long bodies stretched out behind them. "I've never had this many passengers," she admitted. "Admit it," Ethan said. "Your job just got better." She smirked. "It definitely got louder." He asked more questions, just like before, but now there were interruptions. "Is that a way station?" he asked. "Yes, Pickles. No, don't. Hey!" Pickles had somehow climbed halfway onto the dashboard. Ethan scooped him up. "Sorry, he thinks he's helping navigate." Claire laughed. "Well, he's confident. I'll give him that." By late afternoon, something shifted. The dogs settled. Pickles and Rye curled together, breathing slow and even. Louis rested his head on Claire's leg, completely at ease. The cab, once full of movement, became calm. "See," Ethan said quietly. "Told you they'd figure it out." She glanced at him. "You were right." There was a softness in her voice now, something warmer than before. That night they stopped at a quiet rest area. The 4 of them climbed down, the dogs stretching, sniffing, and exploring the unfamiliar ground under a sky full of stars. They sat together at the truck step again, but this time it wasn't just the 2 of them. Pickles curled at Ethan's feet. Rye leaned against his leg. Louis sat pressed against Claire's side, occasionally glancing over at the others like he was still making up his mind. "It feels different," Claire said. "Better different or worse different?" Ethan asked. She smiled. "Better." He nodded. "Good." She looked out at the open road stretching into the darkness. "I'm not used to this," she admitted. "Company like this. It's usually just me and Louie. Ethan nudged Rye gently with his foot. Well, now you've got a whole crew. She laughed softly. Yeah, I do. There was a pause. Then she said, You were right, you know. About what? Not doing it alone. He didn't respond right away. Instead, he reached down, absent-mindedly scratching Pickles behind the ears. You don't have to change everything, he said. Just make room for something new. She turned to him, studying his face in the dim light. And you, she asked, you ready for something like this? The road isn't exactly stable. He smiled. Neither is owning a bakery, if I'm being honest. She laughed at that. I've got more good people who can run things for a few days at a time, and if I plan it right, I could make some more trips. With 3 dogs, she teased. With 3 dogs, he confirmed. She shook her head, smiling. I think I like that idea. By the time they turned back toward home, it was no longer felt like an experiment. It felt natural. Back at the dog park, a week later, the reunion was louder than ever. Louie charged forward, immediately met by Pickles and Rye in a whirlwind of wagging tails and happy chaos. Claire stood beside Ethan, arms folded loosely, watching them. Well, she said, we survived, all of us. Thrived, Ethan corrected. She nodded. Yeah, thrived. He glanced at her. So what happens now? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she watched the dogs, her dogs, his dogs, moving together like they've always been a pack. Then she said, next run leaves in 4 days. Ethan smiled. I'll bring extra blankets. And extra snacks, she added. For you or the dogs, she grinned. Both. The sun dipped low again, just like the first day. But this time, nothing felt temporary. Not the road, not the plan, not them.